The same way, eyes and ears up here. Now, I'm assuming you guys pretty much got the idea of how this works. We've gone over percents increase and decrease in 6th grade. I know that because I did that this week with the 6th graders. So if you want the basic way of doing this, you can check out the 6th grade video that I put out a couple days ago. But I'm just going to be using the arrow method for this one. And the idea here is understanding what they give you. If you look at this first example, the usual price of an article was $200. And then it was put on sale at 15% off. The question is this. When we're talking percentages, what does that $200 represent? Yeah, the original the original price usually talks about 100%. Now they're talking about 15% off. What percent are you paying then? 85%. You're paying 85%. So hopefully in your head you could be like, since it's 15% off, means 100% minus 15% is 85%. So basically, you're trying to find 85%. So the question is, how do you turn 100 into an 85? You can divide by 100, then multiply by 85. Are there any other ways you could do this? Multiply by 85, divide by 100. That's another way you could do this. I just want to pick numbers that are nice and nice. Cross out the zeros? Okay, we could divide by, well, let's do this. Let's divide by, if you divide by 20, what does that become? 5%. And 5 times what is 85? 13? 17?
38.
All right. So what's 200 divided by 20? 10. And what's 10 times 17? $170. And I believe that's the answer they give there. This is just understanding that the original price is 100%. And you just ask, well, if you're only paying 85%, how do you turn 100 into an 85? If you want to do it the other way, you multiply 200 times 15 over 100, get that number and then subtract, which I think is what was done here. That's a lot of work that you could do, but understanding how that works, you can make your work a little bit easier here. Same idea works with profit. If you look at worked example 2, by selling goods at $336, this person is making a 12% profit. What does profit mean? You're making more than what you spent on it. So basically, this represents 112%. Whatever he spent on whatever the item is considered the 100%. The profit is more than 100%. So in this case, he made a profit of 12%. How much did the good cost? So if they're asking about how much he spent on it, they're asking for the original cost. And remember, original cost usually means 100%. Now the question is, how do you turn 112 into 100? That might be a little more complicated. You can divide by 12. I don't think you can divide this by 12, though. You can? 4, 12. You can divide this by 12? No, you can't. You can't. You can divide it by 2. You can't divide it by 3, though. What was that?
Can you divide it by 4?
Divide by 4? Yeah, you can divide by 4. Else, what happens when you divide by 4? 4, 8, 12. 2, 28. How do you turn a 28 into 100?
Divide again?
Yeah, let's divide. Well, that might be a little bit tough. So this might be a little more complicated. So instead of making 100%, maybe we'll just make it into a 12%. Can we turn 112% into a 12%? How can you do that? Actually, I don't know. Let's just turn it into 100%. I'm not exactly sure. Sometimes these are a little more difficult. But let's just do it the classical way. We'll divide by 112 to get 1%, and then multiply by 100. Oh, that's easy then. That's why they picked this number. What's 336 divided by 112? 3. And what's 3 times 100? 300. So the item originally cost $300. So a good idea when it comes to these word problems here, usually they pick numbers for a reason. They picked these numbers out so that way you can divide them out real easy. And I believe that's the answer in the book. 300 was the original cost. So the idea, what you're trying to figure out here, is not like you're learning how to do percents. You've learned this 2 years ago. What you're learning to do is reading a problem and interpreting it. What is it asking? It's telling you that something was sold at a profit. That means in your head you got to think to yourself, when you're dealing with profit, that's whatever you spent on it, plus the actual, in this case, profit that you made. So that's the original cost. That's the extra that you're charging. So know when you're adding to 100 or subtracting from 100. So what other words would indicate subtracting from 100? In this case, it was a discount, so that meant subtracting 100. So what other examples would be subtracting 100?
Sale.
Being on sale.
Black Friday.
Black Friday. So anything involving sales, usually we're talking about. How about adding to 100?
Profit.
Okay, that's one example we did there. Anything else where you're adding? Some overtime,
Tax.
taxes especially. You're paying for an item plus an extra in Illinois, almost 10%. Yeesh. Yeah, we're still in debt. That's interesting. So, no. So that's all I'll say about that, because this is what you'll be doing in today's lesson. And I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. If you don't like this complicated business of arrow methods, please check this video down here. That's the more basic way to do it. But I'm sure after doing that basic way, you'll be like loving all this stuff. And don't forget to subscribe, click that bell icon, and tell your friends about us.
Subscribe.